All right, so we're going to talk about something. I work mostly with women, probably the youngest in the mid 30 range, but most of my clients fall in the 40 to 60 year range. And what I have observed is a lot of us buy into this belief that weight loss is harder as we get older. And what we do is we tend to have these negative voices in our head that say, oh, it's almost impossible to lose weight after 50, or you better get it off while you're young. And it would probably be easier to lose it when you're younger, probably because you're more active, you're chasing your kids, you may have other things going on. But I want to flip this around and say there's a lot of perks to losing weight when you're older. One, usually you're not chasing around your kids. You can devote more time to yourself. And I'm going to make the argument that what is really the issue? Is it our aging body, or is it the fact that we've repeatedly dealt with our emotional needs with food for 40 plus years the same way? So I'm reading this great book on emotional eating, and basically the gist of what I've gotten through so far, and I agree 100%, is that we have to learn from our family, our parents, how to deal with emotions without food. Well, guess what? If we're 100 pounds overweight or 50 pounds overweight or whatever pounds overweight, and we eat for emotional reasons, we obviously weren't taught that lesson. So now as adults, we have to teach ourselves. And having been a former teacher, what I know is to teach a brand new skill takes about 30 times, at least, exposure at least 30 times to a new skill. If you're somebody who was raised in a home where maybe your family used food as reward, comfort, whatever, and now you are a 50-something-year-old woman, and for 50-something years you've used food for reward, comfort, you're gonna have to give yourself some grace and compassion, because not only are you trying to lose weight, you're trying to kind of rewire your brain to deal with really uncomfortable emotions that you maybe never had to deal with in the past because you've used food to kind of mask it and to deal with it. And so you've got a double whammy of things you're learning, and you've reinforced the wrong way of doing it for a long, long time. So is it physically harder to lose the weight? I really question that. I think if you were on enough of a caloric deficit and you were being physically active, that's not the issue for most women in that age bracket. What the issue is, we did not learn how to deal with our emotional house appropriately, me included, and we're having to rewire our response to stress, anxiety, fear, pain, any discomfort without using food as our soothing blanket, right? And we're trying to do that in combination with most of the time eating in a caloric deficit to lose weight. And that's a lot. And this is why you keep hearing me beating this drum about compassion, because you're gonna make a lot of mistakes. I mean, you might go a couple days where you don't emotionally eat or you don't emotionally binge, but then you have one. Okay. We expect that's going to occur because you've done it like this for 40 or 50 years. You're going to need to reprogram yourself. It's going to take time. It doesn't happen overnight. I feel like for the most part, I mean, I can feel the emotions and I know they're coming and I know what I would have done in my past, and I'm very cognizant of it, but it's taken me a long time to get to that point. And I think that we try to assume that it's all, we will never get there. It's impossible. No, it's going to take you a while to learn these lessons, but you can learn these lessons. I mean, my gosh, you'll see a 90-year-old go back to college to get a degree because they just want to, right? You're capable of learning. You're capable of growing. Is it hard? Yes. Would it be hard to find other ways to deal with emotional problems in your 20s? Yes, and I chose not to. That's why I got to over 300 pounds, because in my 20s, I didn't really want to invest the focus to myself that needed to happen to deal with my emotional health to where I would stop using food to cope. When I got into my 30s, I was finally willing to look at that. I was willing to finally give it some attention and to think it through and to go to therapy and to start working through this stuff. But when I hear my older clients say, you know, my mom or so-and-so used to say, you need to do this before you hit this age because it's almost impossible. From a physical perspective, I don't think it's impossible. I know it's not impossible. I've seen lots of clients in their 50s and 60s lose weight. I think what it is it's harder because you're more hardwired, your brain is more hardwired to deal with emotional discomfort with food because chances are that's what was modeled for you as a kid. You've done it for decades, and now you're having to learn a totally new way of dealing with emotional discomfort. So I just want to have this honest conversation because I know change is possible. I see it every day. But if we tell ourselves these false stories and we think it's hormones or we think it's our decreasing metabolism, it's kind of like we're passing off the real issue to something that has unfortunately just become, magazine headlines, right? It's not real. Yes, will your metabolism go down a little bit? Yes. Do you have hormonal issues that maybe make it a little bit more difficult? Yes. Is it impossible? No. The real work comes into your relationship with food, your relationship with how you deal with your emotions and your family and your friends, making it to where you're getting what you need and sometimes putting other people's needs under your own. And that, oh my gosh, that's so selfish, Heather. Yeah, you got to get a little selfish. And see, that's the discomfort. That's what makes it feel hard because for 50 years, you've put other people always ahead of you. And then your emotional needs don't get dealt with. And what do? I deserve this. I'm going to eat this cream pie or cookies because that's the coping mechanism you have relied on. It served a purpose. It's helped you deal with discomfort, but it's not the most effective for healthy long-term weight management. So I just want to throw these ideas out there. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this. But honestly, I see this time and time again. Women in that age bracket have to put boundaries in. They have to typically learn how to deal with discomfort. They have to learn to be more direct in their communication. They have to begin to value themselves enough to say no to things that they might have always said yes to. And they have to be willing to sit with emotional discomfort as opposed to leaning into food. And oftentimes going to things like therapy and counseling is really good. That's how that stuff can start to transform. But it's not impossible for you. You are not broken. You just have to learn something you weren't taught as a child. I wasn't taught it as a kid either. I didn't know. You have to learn it. You guys have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.